it's overwhelming, but it's also our jobs.
Our job is only going to get harder.
It's worrisome.
This is something that's unprecedented.
Now is not the time to be a cowboy. No one has anything to prove. We're all in this together.
Welcome to Reporting from the Frontline of a Pandemic. I'm Lauren Granada, and I'm here with Scott Isaacs, News Director at WJAR-TV in Providence, Rhode Island. Scott, thank you for joining me. My first question for you is, how have you had to adjust the way you work with everything going on with COVID-19 right now?
It has been a complete 180 from what we've normally done. The fact that I'm sitting at home right now in the middle of the day talking to you is one major change. I've had to spend the last week at home, under self-isolation. I'm fine. My wife is fine, but there was an exposure and we wanted to be safe. And we've done this with our crews. Almost all of the reporters and photographers are working remotely. They have not come into the building in it's more than 2 weeks now. We've started to send people home, which has created a whole bunch of technological hurdles, setting up work from home, being able to access iNews and Avid, Media Central, and all the little things that we take for granted, right, when we're in a newsroom. Now that we're all at home, it's a lot harder, and you have to kind of temper your expectations because things don't quite run the way they would if you were in the building. We've started to send our meteorologists home. They're using new technology or I shouldn't say new technology. They're using existing technology in new ways so that they can do their forecasts from home without having to come into the building. We've got some anchors who are at home now too. So it's really a big course correction for us in terms of how we look at things and what we want to do, on the air and everything else. We really have to kind of think differently and out of the box.
How are you guys dealing with this coverage?
Everybody's been really good about it so far. I've had a couple people, they have concerns about their safety. They have concerns about their families. They have concerns about the pace that we're going at and how long we can sustain it. And they're all really good points. It's hard. It's been very difficult since I've been at home because I feel like I don't have the good read on the room. So I've had to learn, as far as like personal growth, I've had to learn how to manage remotely and try to keep in touch with everyone to see how they're feeling and the pressures that they're dealing with. Because the biggest thing that I think gets lost in the shuffle between our viewers, politicians, the people in the business, and our own families is that journalists are people too, with the same sets of fears and concerns as everybody else. And these things are impacting us more than ever when people are relying on us more than ever. Mm-hmm. And so it's a very difficult thing to balance because there are things that are more important than the story, and it's family and health. And we have to keep all these things in mind while at the same time providing what I consider to be an essential service to our communities.
And how are you balancing that kind of work and home with not only yourself, but also, as a news director and kind of a leader for your newsroom?
It's hard. Anybody who tells you that working from home is great and fun, I don't know. My wife, who is a reporter at WCVB, is sitting downstairs right now in the makeshift studio we've created in our dining room, and she's adapted a lot better than I have. It's hard because I feel like I'm not in touch with everything. It's a very different way of looking at things. As a news director, I'm in the newsroom all the time. She's a reporter. She's out in the field. She's more used to being out in the elements. Mm-hmm. So it's been an interesting thing personally for me to balance because I have to try to maintain some kind of a a schedule while everything else is going on. I don't necessarily need to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and watch the morning show and get ready for work and go in and all these things because work is across the hall from my bedroom now. And that's been a personal challenge to me, and I know some of the other people who have been working from home, is how do you maintain your daily routine when you don't have an office to go to? And I think everybody's adjusting in different ways. And like I said, I've been playing around with a lot of technological things that I otherwise might not have ever even thought to use. So it's been an interesting experiment, and not something that I ever thought that I would be doing on a regular basis. And I mean, this could be continuing for a long time now. I mean, we don't even know. So I might be here for a while.
What have you been hearing from your viewers? What kinds of concerns do they have? Do you feel like they are turning to you more now than before?
I do. Oops, hang on, I'm ruining everything here. Wanted to turn off the dings, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I always forget that this thing's up. Okay, there we go, back. Well, I think we're seeing that local television and newspapers are not nearly as dead as some pundits would say that they are. Our viewership has been really high, especially during live updates at the governor's press conferences. And we cross, my station in particular, we cross into Massachusetts. So Bristol County is part of our viewing area. So we're carrying Governor Raimondo and Governor Baker pretty much every day, plus the president. And all of these updates, people want this information and they want to see it. And they want to hear from their local leaders, and they want to see what's going on in their own neighborhoods, and how everybody is adjusting to this new normal. And they know that the place that they can get it is their local television stations. And so I've been encouraged by what I've seen, and the few chances I've had to take a step back and look at kind of the overall breadth of our coverage, to see that people are appreciative of the work that we're doing. And it's helping them stay informed and stay calm, because there's a lot of reasons to be scared right now. And there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknowns. People are losing their jobs. They're wondering how they're going to pay their bills and put food on the table. And I feel like it's our job to let them know that help is available, to let them know what the facts are, to let them know how they can best protect themselves and their families, and knowing that we will be there for them 24/7. And I think that they're returning that commitment, and it's been good to see. And not just us; it's for all of our competitors. It's for the Providence Journal. It's for the Globe. It's for the Boston Herald. Everybody is seeing that increase because local sources of information are who they turn to in times of emergency.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say is the hardest part about covering this pandemic?
Whew. Just the sheer volume of information, and I guess there's two paths to answering this question. There's the professional side of it and the personal side of it. From a professional basis, it's how do we keep up with the flow of information while at the same time not overloading our viewers with, quote unquote, bad news.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you can sit through a half an hour of news on any channel in the country right now, and it's pretty depressing. Mm-hmm. And there's really no end in sight. And even the brightest minds in the world don't know, what's going to happen. And there's a lot of uncertainty, and managing that fear and trying to provide, the facts is really, what our goal is. And sometimes there's just so much stuff coming in, feels like it's coming in from all sides, and it can be tough. But our company's, kind of overarching the plan is plan, don't panic. And I kind of look at working on our coverage plans in that way, that as long as we are prepared, no matter how bad it gets, we will be in a position to serve our viewers and our communities. And that's one part of it. And the other part of it, like we talked about before, is managing everybody's personal concerns and fears through all of this, whether it's their children or an elderly loved one, or all the ways lives are changing. People whose children are now at home practicing distance learning. These are all pressures that are being felt by people who already have a very stressful job in the first place, and managing that and making sure that they have the time they need to deal with their families, and at the same time, are able to do their jobs. It's a very challenging time for everybody, I think, and I've been doing this for a little while now, and I can't remember anything like this. Not, and I go back over 20 years now, and it's just, it can be very overwhelming, and managing the personal side of it is just as important as the professional. And that's probably my biggest takeaway from this whole thing.
Okay.
And it's not over. I mean, we're probably through the end of April now into May, and and who knows what's going to happen. So
How are you balancing in your newscasts, the positive things and with the negative things? When there's so much, as you say, there's so much information to pick from and so much to sift through.
We had to make it a priority. One of the things that we did very early on, it started with one of my enterprising sports reporters who wondered what the heck he was going to do with no sports to talk about. And he encouraged everybody who was stuck at home to go out into their driveway and start doing trick shots and submitting them, through our app, so that we could basically show everybody kind of trying to do crazy trick shots in their backyard hoops, or their pools, or their ping pong tables, or whatever else. And then we ended up kind of taking that idea and expanding it just to positive things in general, and how people are coping with their new normal. And every day we have a reporter dedicated to telling those stories, and she's doing 2, sometimes 3 stories a day, just on the little things going on all over our market. People who are volunteering, families who are trying creative ways to stay connected, people who are helping other people get groceries when they can't get out of their house. Kind of the everyday heroes who probably deserve a lot more credit than they're getting right now, because everybody is kind of distracted by the bigger picture. But it's very encouraging to see how people are stepping up to help each other while all this is going on. It's in addition to our first responders and all the medical professionals working in hospitals, the average ordinary man on the street helping out his or her neighbor. There are tons of those stories, and the fact that there are so many is very encouraging, and I think it's a necessary part of our shows every day, because I think our viewers do need to see the brighter side in all of this. If nothing else, it's really brought our communities together, and people are really coming through in different ways, and I appreciate the fact that we're able to showcase that every day.
What's your advice to anyone wanting to go into broadcast journalism, especially with now everything that you're facing?
Well, I would say now more than ever, this shows how essential a service we are providing. It's easy to get caught up in the hype of cable news and the network news when you boil it down. Local journalism, whether it's a neighborhood newspaper, whether it's a regional paper, whether it's one of your local television stations, those are the places that will know you the best and will know your neighborhoods the best. And right now is proof that people trust us when these things happen. And if making your world, wherever you live, whatever market you work in, a better, more fulfilling place for everyone is a goal of yours, then this is absolutely the business to get in. If you don't like really long hours and hard work, especially right now, maybe not the best choice. There are times where it's very hard, but then there are times where it's very rewarding. And anytime we can help somebody out, or help shed light on somebody or something that's where there's an injustice being done. Those are the types of stories that make it all worth it, and make this a fulfilling career. It's a tough time in terms of people who get into this business are being asked to do more than ever. You have to know how to do 27 different things, generally all of them at once, and you have to know how to work quickly and efficiently. But you can still tell good stories in different ways. And one of the things that I've been so encouraged by with all of our younger staffers, especially, and this might be a good lesson for you and all your classmates, really, is that the ways that you guys live now, where everybody's much more in tune. Like, I did not grow up with an iPhone. Would have been awesome. It's basically a part of your life. It's all you know. You've grown up with it, and you're so in tune with how to use it in an efficient way. And I'm seeing younger people telling stories in such creative ways that, to me, when I was 22, 23, I would never have thought of this. And it's so fascinating to see the technology develop and see the people who, have immersed themselves in it, use it to do their jobs better. And I think that as more and more new faces come into our business, we're going to see storytelling continue to evolve. Even right now, we're doing live shots now with our iPhones. 3 years ago, I would not have fathomed this. And right now, I can take this and connect to our LiveView server and be live in 5 seconds on my station if I wanted to be. This just did not exist. And now I'm able to let my staff work more remotely because of it. And it helps keep us safer. It helps keep the people that we're interviewing safer. And all these things are creating kind of a new way of doing things. And I think that the next generation of journalists that are coming from your Emersons or your Northwesterns or your Syracuses are going to be much more adept at this stuff. And it's going to show in the quickness and in the efficiency of how they tell their stories, but also in the creativity, because there's so many more things that you can do that just weren't available before. And so I'm encouraged, and I see a very bright future for this. And I think that this crisis is going to help those types of storytellers grow up a little faster. And it's certainly teaching us so many things in terms of how to work remotely and everything else. And I mean, when this is over and life returns to normal, if it does, I hope it does soon. How many do we even need to have people in the building? I mean, could we envision a world where everybody's working remotely? It's certainly on the table now. And so I'm curious to see where it all goes. And I think the next generation of journalists are going to be the people who help make that a reality, because it's so much, that mobile lifestyle is so much more prevalent with that younger generation.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, and thank you for all of the work you're doing to keep us safe and informed. And thank all of you for watching this episode of Reporting from the Frontline of a Pandemic. I've been talking with Scott Isaacs, the news director at WJAR-TV in Providence, Rhode Island. I'm Lauren Granada.